Hey everyone, it's Myson Jones here with Basketball to Business Podcast, and I'm with Coach Rich Walton of Skill Development Coach. Coach, how are things going for you?
I'm doing very well. How are you today?
Good, 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 good. I'm glad we got to get on this call. I know we've been going back and forth a little bit, but I think this is good. You get to talk to me and get to talk to thousands of other trainers too about what you've been building for the past few years and why it's here to help players.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited about it.
Yes, sir. So, can you give me a little bit of background on your coaching experience?
Yeah. I've worked with players for a long time, probably over a dozen years, 14 years, something like that. Obviously having a passion for the game ever since I was a kid, but then getting into coaching and most of your listeners and most of the trainers who are out there understand that playing basketball and coaching basketball are two different things. So improving on your craft as a player or your skill as a player and being competitive, but then also transitioning that to coaching and teaching. And so my background is with working with kids from the youth level through high school varsity level through the college level, where I've worked with some college programs over the years. But my real love for the game in terms of what I love to do now is to work with a kid or a series of kids and watch them get better over a period of time. And that's really been my passion for forever, is just trying to get kids better and figuring out the fastest ways and the concepts behind getting players to improve. Because you can get kids into a workout and get them into trainings, but how do you make sure that every kid that you're working with is improving? And it's one thing to get a workout and get a sweat in, but it's another thing to really work on aspects of your game. And that's what I just have tried to work on heavily over the years, is just try to get the concepts, techniques, and programming in line with what a player needs to do, depending on where they're currently at, because they all come from all over the map, what their skill set is. So that's where my passion is in general. And I've had, different experiences with varsity coaching and all that stuff. And, I feel that one thing that may be a little bit different for me is I'm not just a trainer. Like, I'm a coach first, a trainer second. And, I think that there's a difference between coaches and trainers, and I kind of cross over into both territories, if that makes a little bit of sense.
It does. You're kind of along the lines of Gannon Baker. I interviewed him not too long ago, and he doesn't like the term trainers. He likes coaches. We're
Yeah,
coaches
right.
first.
Right. Well, and I could just talk about one thing in my experience is I started a program. I was young. I started a varsity program at a very small school of 50 boys. And their first year, they were all of a sudden going to play 20 games at the varsity level. And it was basically a bunch of freshmen and sophomores who weren't very good. And they knew that, and I knew it. And, you start the first day and you're thinking, all right, we're going to run this team offense, and we're going to run this, and we're going to run that. And then it doesn't take more than a couple practices to realize, unless you can catch, finish, pass, dribble, and unless your players can finish at the rim and learn how to shoot the basketball, you're not going to be successful no matter what you try. So I took a step back that year, and it was a big year of my development, because everybody wants to win right away, right? We all want to compete. We want to win and start off a few varsity games, with the score being 20-1, and you're losing. And then it starts like, okay, well, how can we get that down to less than 10 points? How can we get that? So the point is, over the course of that season, we were doing all skill work with our kids, because it didn't matter what we tried to run. We needed kids to be able to play before we taught them how to play together. They needed to understand skill sets and develop those. And that was a real joy for me to see that team later on go on to win half their games as juniors, and then win 15 or 16 games as seniors with a very small school, competing in against, you know, highest class teams in the state throughout the regular season and winning in the state tournament. So those are the things that are the joys of coaching, you know, that but I feel like the player development is interwoven. And that's the one thing that's really a challenge for coaches, is how to find time inside of the season to develop players, because there's so much focus on team stuff. And you got to do both, and you got to make sure that your players are peaking in the playoffs, but you got to make sure that you're intertwining circuits, ball handling circuits, finishing circuits, skill circuits, shooting reps, objective-based skill routines inside of a team practice, because otherwise, you know, the kids will fall short at some point, and it'll hurt you when they're not shooting well, or their skill sets aren't where they need to be, as tight as they need to be. So anyway, so that's kind of where it all comes together, I think, a little bit with skill development coaching, with myself and my background with coaching and training, if that makes sense, you know?
It does. So it kind of leads into the next. Oh, it's the background. Or is that just me?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, cool. I'll just keep going. So that kind of makes sense. It leads into the next question of when did you start skill development coaching? It sounds like you just explained the why behind it, but when did you begin developing it?
Well, and then, you know, my background too is I train, you know, hundreds of kids throughout the year. I mean, I started with one kid. I started with a hockey bag and a couple of, you know, weight vests and 2 basketballs and a bunch of stuff for $375 out of the back of my car when I was 24 years old, training, just grabbing kids and saying, you want to get better at basketball? let's get outside, let's work. And, you know, from there, my attention to detail and my drivenness, I guess, as a trainer was always like, well, how can I get my kids better? So then, you know, you give them PDF homework assignments, and then you make DVDs, and you do these things to try to help kids engage with their own development. And it has to be very technical and progression based, and even assessment based. So developing series of assessments and progressions that lead into another, so the kid understands why they're doing what they're doing, and there's an approach, and there's a practical game skill involved in why they're learning certain techniques, whether it be finishing on one side of the basket versus the other, off either side, off either foot, with either hand, or whether it be ball handling, for instance. And there are certain skills that just are paramount, like inside outs, 2-ball inside outs. Every kid should be doing 2-ball inside outs every day. So, you know, there's certain techniques that go along with the programming that I find, you know, are that was my goal, was to try to get kids an understanding of what to practice, how to practice it, why you're practicing it, and then to try to build a system, because we don't really have a systematized approach to player development. And, you know, and as coaches, you know, we're always trying to figure out like naming systems and, you know, play diagrams and how we can have systems for our offense. Like you can have 20 plays on offense, or you can have one play with 20 different, you know, options, you know, or you can have a couple of varieties of sets. So we're always trying to call out names and numbers and signals and all this stuff for offensive and defensive purposes. And then, you know, it came to me, I'm like, you know, I always really appreciated this concept of the periodic table. And it has these numbers and these letters. And you know, as I said, we're coaches, so we're looking for systems to be able to integrate with our teams, that everybody can be on the same page. And, you know, this periodic table, this thing on every science room that we've ever been to, and it's got all this Latin terms and these numbers and this structure to it. And it's an organizing method. And I just looked at it and I thought, you know, over the years, I was like, you know, this would be really cool to use in a framework for what, you know, I love to do, which is train basketball players and coach basketball, coach kids. And, you know, we could use this as a system in an organized framework of, you know, classifications such as ball handling, breakdown moves, finishing, shooting, 2-ball skills, back to the basket skills, team drills, circuit-based training. And that was my, that's my bread and butter. That's what I spent my life dedicated to, trying to improve time, efficiency inside of practice and efficiency inside of training. So every kid who comes and works with us, they know they're going to get the best of what we got. So, and that was the missing link between what, there's all these stuff, this information out there, but how do we systematize it and make it make sense to kids and build on itself from progression to progression to progression? If you master one skill set in this, or one sub-series of skills, you move on to the next one, and it's kind of just building blocks to your own individual skill set. And that's extremely important for basketball players to have. The more skilled they are, the more opportunities they're going to have. And the more skilled that players are, the easier they're going to be to coach, because you can run a lot of different fun stuff as a coach if you've got 5 guys on the floor who can, handle it, shoot it, and know how to play the game. So that was really where the concept came from, was to be able to derive relationships between individual skill sets and combine and synthesize them, and then be able to deliver them to players. So then when they weren't in the gym with us, or when they weren't in the gym with their trainer, they could then have a very crystallized, distilled out, clear skill set, a player development plan for themselves that could consist of what the coach prescribed for them, for what they really needed to do to improve leading into the next week, the next workout, the next practice. So it's a streamlined way to engage players on an individualized level. So that's what it's kind of all about.
So is this, because it's so streamlined and it's so systematic and systematized, is that what makes this different than some of the other programs out there who are pretty similar, but maybe not the same, of course?
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything similar, just because I know what went into skill development, coach. And I know that you can take somebody and put them in a gym for half a day, and one guy can show a bunch of drills or whatnot. But these are kids that have utilized the system. And there's just the uniqueness, I think, is because of the practical application of being able to customize and assign, but also the derivatives and the relationship between the techniques and the progressions and the assessments that are built into the platform. So I'd say that it's probably as unique as it gets, but also most importantly, more than being unique, is effectiveness. Is a kid gonna, when you send that assignment, new skills assigned from your coach, and we've just gotten feedback from people that the kids are getting better, and that's the goal. That's very straightforward. Is yeah, we've been using this thing, and my kid's on week 6, and they're doing really well, and people post videos and whatnot. But it's just it's helpful because it's that assistant coach being able to deliver the skill sets to the kids directly, and then you can pick and choose what your individual players, you put all your players on a roster, and then start to just go to work and customize and send them off, and the kids are accountable for what their skill assignments are, and they all have their own unique individual player development plan, which I think is critical, especially throughout the with a trainer being able to roster 80 kids, 100 kids, however many kids you work with, and fire off workouts once a week or whenever they're not in the gym together, because otherwise kids are kind of left on their own devices. They're trying to remember stuff. Their muscle memory will go away between the time they get in the car and when they go home and eat dinner and fall asleep, and then, oh yeah, I got to do that. But if you can assign that workout the next day, that gives kids a different level of clarity and purpose with why they're doing what they're doing. And we've just seen so many kids take to that methodology that we feel, it's really effective, and that's the most important thing. Is it effective? Is it helpful for kids to get better? So that's kind of my answer to that.
Okay, so this is not a seasonal program. You're saying this is for even in season, when after you practice, you want to send some development drills to your players. And again, I think you kind of alluded to it, but for a trainer, I'm trying to think of objections here of a trainer who says, man, I know what I can give my athletes. I know I can send them off and give them a few drills to work on, or they may not even work on these drills. I mean, what do you say to that coach or that trainer who says they may not work on it, or I can just send them my own thing?
Yeah, I mean, you can. The problem with that is this. And I've been there. Like I've been there. Print out booklets for every kid, put them on note cards, have a homework thing. It's guess what? Guess where it is? It's stuffed in a kid's backpack. It's put under a kid's bed. It's under somebody's car seat. They may read it once, and maybe there's some stuff they have to write in. But kids will remember 10% of what's on paper if they read it once. They'll remember 90% of what's on video. So, instructional strategies of video-based learning application and being able to visually see. Basketball is a visual game, so you need to be able to see the techniques behind. You can write out. I was watching something on USA Basketball. USA Basketball did something, how to change direction between the legs. It was like an 18-paragraph essay, and it was nothing of real substance. It was useless. No kid is going to read 18 paragraphs of how to change direction between the legs. When you can watch a series of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, phase 1, and there's techniques involved that kids need to see visually to be able to understand, oh, that's how they do that, So, I mean, I just think that, you can try to find whatever's out there in terms of YouTube videos. It's all this fragmented network of stuff, and 99% of it's total crap and useless. So I mean, we worked so hard to get the skill sets that we've tested and got so much feedback from college coaches as well as the players themselves about how to actually execute these things, whether they be hesitation crossovers, inside out crossovers, back between the legs, jump spins in the lane. These are advanced skill sets that kids need to have if they want to be good. So I know that it'll be 90% compatible with whatever a trainer is teaching, because there's just certain skill sets that you have to have, and if you want to be really good. And that's the combination of, the periodic table, being able to incorporate recurring recurring themes, and there's different concepts embedded in that table that are going to take a kid from a progression of level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and there's 16 weeks of pre-made player development programming for every single level of player, from 11 and under, 14 and under, and then high school and advanced college level development, as well as there's teamwork, there's team skill sets that you can embed individual and team practice skill sets inside, such as finishing circuits, for instance. People love those, and they're super effective to get kids tons of reps, hundreds of reps in 20 minutes inside of a team practice, whether it be ball handling, finishing, or shooting, as well as objective-based team drills where kids are turning the ball over, whatever the weaknesses are of your team at the moment. You can throw in a couple of team drills which will address that objective. So, yeah, I think you can just use it all year round, depending on what your needs are, whether it's in season with the team or whether you are, just want to customize and assign to the kids. That's really where the effectiveness comes into play,
I like that. So, and a few more questions. And I like the fact that the elements, you start off with the yellow, and one element is super simple, and then you progress into the more advanced things. I do like that progression in the app, and just started recently getting in there more. So for me, I know I'm assuming others are in the same situation, not as much as kids who I see on a day-to-day basis. Those aren't the kids that I'm thinking of sending this to, but those kids who are an hour, 2 hours away, who can't always come to the brick and mortar location. Those are the kids who I think this would be great for.
No
Now,
doubt.
what do you suggest for those guys and girls wanting to set up something where, let's say they use skill development coach, but they also want to charge something for the kids, seeing them
Yeah,
physically
that's the best
too? How
part
do you
about it.
join those?
That's the best part about. All right, so to tackle your first question, exactly once a week, maybe once every couple of days, depending on the nature of the kid, how old they are, how committed they are, and how often you see them. Even once a week to get a skill set or a player development plan to a kid, extremely important because that holds them accountable. And then they're not coming back to the workout working on stuff that you worked on Tuesday or last week or whatever. They're progressing. That's the key. And you see kids getting better. And the thing about basketball is a game of muscle memory. So muscle memory happens very fast. Within a matter of 4 or 5 days, kids can improve measurable skill assessments by up to 30%. We've done tests on this and studies on it. So we know that if the kids just do the time, they do the pounds, do the pound between the legs, do the inside outs, do the inside out crossovers, they do that stuff, their skill set tightens up, and then they can do more advanced stuff. That's just the progression. But also the same thing on the financial side and on the scheduling side. So let's say, and we have trainers that are out there all over, and they use it to be able to roster the kids they train. The kids actually pay for it. It's $14.95 a month, so it's so inexpensive for the kids and the parents. And then so it doesn't cut into your training costs at all, as well as we compensate trainers. So one of the other things about being a coach, being a trainer, being everyone is hustling, right? We're all trying to find gym times. We're all trying to find how many kids we need to fill up certain things. And if anybody thinks they're making money in the basketball business, real money, they don't know what real money is. The way I look at it. So no, I mean, sure, there's some trainers do better than others, and some coaches are better marketers and all that stuff. But the reality is, we want to support the women and men who are, coaching and working with kids and training them the right way and helping them improve the game, because we love the game and we want to support the coaches financially. So we sit down every 2 weeks and we write commission checks out to people all over the country. It takes us a couple of hours to go through. All right, well, that new member came through that coach, or that coach referred that coach, and it's a model where we are, trying to support the coaches that are out there grinding, whether they're high school coaches, varsity coaches, JV coaches, whether they're up and coming trainers, whether they're established, whether they're AAU programs. I mean, we had 2 programs come on last week that were 201 kids. They wanted for their whole program, and then we had another one that was 84 kids. So, and we appreciate that. So we want to support the people in the network that are working with kids and helping, kids get better and then, compensate them financially at the same time. And so it's another way of making residual revenue on top of the time that you're putting in the gym with the kids. So, it's nice. It's nice for people to get commission checks just for training with players,
Yeah, for sure. So what does that look like if one kid, of course, now the trainers, I'm assuming they have a fee to have a program, but then when they start getting other kids on board, that's when the commission checks come. Do you mind talking numbers, what you share with?
Yeah. So we've set it up where we give back 35% of every member back to our referral partners and back to our partners. So
it's a lot.
It's because we have internal people that we have to cover, and we have a full on team inside internally, and everybody's got to be paid. But we set up the model from the get-go where we said, all right, well, let's, if you want to use this with your players, just send them a link and they can opt in and they can purchase it, and then you can add them to your roster. You get paid 25% ongoing residual. And then if you refer another coach, or that person coaches, or that parent or whatever refers another person, is you earn 10% of their renewal or their ongoing revenue. So it's 25% on the direct, and then 10% on the referral. And then we have a system of tracking where we're able to, that's what we said, where we allocate every member. Who's this member? Okay, who's coach? Who are they with? Who are they with? And then we can identify, okay, well, that's what, their percentages of each membership. And then we just send them a check every 2 weeks. We've been doing this for 2 years, and it's great. Coaches are getting, every 2 weeks they get a check. So and it just depends on how big people want to go. People can go big if they want. This could be a good source of revenue. Most importantly, but the financial side is secondary. But it is important. But I want people to know that, like, we do sit down every 2 weeks, spend a couple of hours going through all the members and saying that, this is who you need to write this check to. Okay. The most important thing is obviously that it's helping kids get better. And we get so many cool emails and people just loving the fact that they have a way now of putting their kids on a team, putting them on a roster, and customizing and assigning. It's a cool thing. It's good for the game. It's good for kids, most importantly. So that's why, it was created. But also we want to make sure that anybody who works with us gets compensated too.
And I must admit, I haven't gone through every single portion of it, but the drills that I have seen, they're not some rinky-dink drills that anybody can just put in a program and start selling. Like, these are actually, for the most part, they're really good drills. And
yeah, it took 2 years to develop the programming and test the programming. So, we did a 500-player grassroots effort in terms of developing the programming, and especially the techniques that go with it, and the progressions. So that was before it was even launched. So, and then the most important part is the video and the technique behind how to actually execute more advanced skills. So the breakdowns, the slow motion features, and the real technical parts, whether they're pop dribbles, change directions, pullbacks, just whatever skill sets that kids are going to need are in there. Especially finishing and breakdown moves. There's so much stuff in it, but so that was not a small endeavor. It took 8 months after we piloted the concept to actually get the footage we wanted. So yeah, it was. That's why when people say, like, "Oh, I'm going to do my own thing," or I'm like, we'll see you in 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, or you can just grab a guy and do a video camera and do a 4-hour shoot, and you've seen those too. So, but right. It's a lot went into skill development, coach. I'll tell you that.
For sure. So, and man, I have another question. So is it simple as saying, because again, I have someone who contacted me from far away, right? Is it as simple as sending a link to them saying, hey, you can sign up here?
There you go.
Now, is there a trial period to where people who say, I'm not sure about this fully yet, do they have a trial period that you used to do? Or
coaches can do trials, players can do trials. We want people who want to use it and are going to get the advantage of it. If you want to, get in there and do a 2-week trial or something just with it, we'll let you do that. Or we'll let trainers come in as low as we can possibly go just to get a feel for it with 12 players. Just to, so they know that they're into something that they can actually use and benefit from. That's, make their life easier, make more money, help your business grow. Like, that's the name of the game, and help your kids get better. So, that's going to benefit the kid. It's going to benefit the player. And you can just send a link. We have series of, like, so everybody who comes on with works with us is, they send out a link, and this is where you get your membership, and they opt in, and from there we take it from there. We don't put a lot of stress on anybody else. And then as soon as they buy, you get notified, and and then we tell you, hey, you can add this kid to your roster, and your commission check's in the mail, or will be. So that's how it works. Yeah, it's just really simple. It's so low. We priced it the way we want. We could charge a lot more for skill development coach. Which, but it makes it so, anybody can afford it, and it's going to help kids at every level, no matter what their background or demographic is. They'll be able to afford it. So you just send a link to the kids and they opt in, and the parents buy it or coaches buy it, and we'll give trials to people for sure.
Nice, nice, Coach. Man, I appreciate that. Where can we find out more information about you on your website, social media, anything you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, we've been, we're on Instagram, Skill Development Coach, Facebook, Skill Development Coach, Twitter, Skill Dev Coach, but also, go to the website, skilldevelopmentcoach.com, and I hope, Myson, if you send some stuff out, we'll get you some information about it, just how we did the case study, how it comes together, and people can just learn more about it, and we'll pick up the phone, we'll give you a call, and if you're training kids and working with kids, it's so nice because you just can put kids on, you can subgroup kids into different, 5th, 6th grade, high school kids, middle school kids, guards, wings, bigs, whoever you're working with. And then you can send team workouts to all those kids. You can send 60 workouts to 60 kids in 60 seconds. So it's just nice to be able to do that. So just go to Skill Development Coach, or hit me up, rich@skilldevelopmentcoach.com, and or Coach B at skilldevelopmentcoach.com. He usually is on the phone more than I am, but just hit us up, and we can take it from there and learn more about your program and what your needs are, and if it can help you, we'll help you.
Coach, man, I appreciate that. And I'll include all that information in the case studies and get whatever else you want to share with the trainers in the podcast description. But thanks for coming on, and hope these trainers look into it and get some value, and most importantly, help their kids out.
No, I appreciate it. And it's always a pleasure for me to be on with you. And I think very highly of you. I want you to know that. You're a young man. You're going to be very successful in this world, I think, with the following you already have. And I appreciate you very much, and your audience. And I'm sure I know a lot of the guys out there. We probably talked face to face, whether some of us have met or via phone or email. But I definitely appreciate you. And you have a very bright future in this. I want you to know that.
Man, I'll receive that. Appreciate that, Coach.
All right, man.
All
You
right.
have a good day.
You too.
All right.